You know, one of the greatest feelings is to feel needed by somebody, to feel that you're wanted and that you're appreciated. Like when somebody says to you, you know, I need you. There's great warmth in that. There's great satisfaction that comes from that. However, that's very dangerous. One thing I've come to realize is that you cannot be the source of other people's happiness. So, other people's happiness cannot rely or depend on you because that's too much of a burden to carry. I was reading a book earlier this week, and I'm going to share the story with you, which I thought was quite interesting. And it was about this woman, we'll call her Mrs. Harrison. Mrs. Harrison. Mrs. Harrison had her own family, and she had a husband who had a drinking problem, and she had a son who had just dropped out of work, and he was unemployed and was looking for a place to stay. So she was busy holding all them down, and then she had a daughter as well who's running wild and uncontrollable. And she's busy taking care of this family all by herself, and she's getting tired, she's run down. So she decides to, have some time for herself. She decides to go to her family's house, her mother's house, to spend some time to recharge in the countryside. So, read some books, look at sheep, go for walks, that kind of thing, just to enjoy herself. So at first, her husband's a bit reliant, like, where are you going? How can you leave me? Don't go. But eventually, after a bit of persuasion from the woman, he decides to let her go and say, yeah, fine, go. So she goes, and she's enjoying herself. And then a few days go by, and then the husband rings her and is saying, oh, hey, baby, how you doing? And she's like, I'm doing great. I'm enjoying myself. I'm having a great time. And he's like, oh, okay. And then she asks also, how's it going back home? He's like, oh, yeah, it's fine. I'm handling it. It's great. Okay, so it goes. A few days go by. He rings again. And this time his speech is a little bit slurred. He's like, oh, hi, honey. How you doing? And she's like, oh, everything is great round here. How are you doing back at home? How are the kids? He's like, oh, it's all great. I'm handling it. He says. So she's okay. She's like, okay, fine. And then a week goes by where she hasn't heard from him. But she's enjoying herself on the holiday. She's having a bit of a retreat. She's gaining some clarity, reevaluating certain things in her life, and she's enjoying it. And then the phone rings a week later. And this time it's the hospital. The hospital ring, and they're going, Mrs. Harrison. She goes, yes. And they ring to tell her that her husband has relapsed with his drinking problem, and he's overdosed on some drugs, and now he's having his kidneys pumped. So, alarmed, she rushes to the hospital to check on him, to find him there, and he says, oh, baby, I'm so glad you came. I needed you, And then she asks him, like, what happened? Why did you relapse? What happened? And then he goes, the only reason I relapsed was because you weren't there for me. Had you been there, I wouldn't have relapsed. I wouldn't have taken all these drugs, and I wouldn't have been in this position. Now, there, in that sense, he was making her feel like he needs her, like she's his glue, his clutch. And that's always great, to feel important, to feel needed by somebody. However, you cannot hold yourself responsible for other people's actions. So just because you're saying, I need you, baby, had you been there, that never would have happened to me, that's really a form of abuse. Because what he's doing is he's justifying his behavior and I'm trying to say. He's blaming her for his own behavior. There we go. It makes more sense, doesn't it? Yeah. He's blaming her for his own behavior. Well, that's one thing you can never do. You can never allow yourself to be blamed for other people's behavior. You can't be responsible for that. You can't be responsible for other people's happiness. Neither can you allow other people to be the sole purpose of your happiness. There we go. I'm back on it. Yeah. So you can't allow other people to keep you happy. It doesn't work that way. And that's too big of a responsibility and a burden for somebody else to carry. You know what I mean? If you rely on one person, one sole person to keep you happy, they're going to let you down. Because the thing about people is we're fickle. You know what I mean? We all make mistakes. Nobody's perfect, and nobody's going to keep you happy every single time. Even the people you love, your close family, there are going to be times where they're going to be able to disappoint you. There will be times where they won't be able to fulfill a need in a way that you want them to. And that's part of life. You can't rely on other people to keep you happy. See, that's another danger of having people make you feel like you're responsible for their actions. You get people who say, if you break up with me, I'm going to end it all. Or you get people who say, you know, if you leave me, I'm going to start drinking again. Or if you leave me, I'm going to start cutting myself up again. And that's dangerous. You're not responsible for anybody else's actions. You know what I'm saying? You're not responsible for anybody else's happiness. And neither should you feel tied down to that, because that's abuse. Because when people do that and put their bad decisions on you, really you're being abused by them, because they're playing the role of the victim, as we say. They call it the perfect victim. And you feel bad sometimes because you feel like, man, like if I leave them, then this is gonna happen. And sometimes it's hard to let go because you've invested so much in this person, you've been there for them. So guys, never feel like you have to stay in any particular relationship just because the person says that they need you. Because you're not responsible for anyone else's actions. You're not responsible for anyone's decisions. You're not responsible for anyone else's behavior or outcomes. They make the decision by themselves. So guys, that's the message of the day for today. Remember that no one is responsible for your happiness, only you are. And you're not responsible for anyone else's happiness, nor are you responsible for anyone else's decisions. Okay? So guys, if you have any comments or you've experienced this kind of thing, or you have a word that could help somebody else, then please comment below. I'm still also taking questions as well. I've been slow with it, but I've gotten piled up, and I will be releasing the video soon on the questions that I've answered. So if you'd like me to answer a question that you may have, then please feel free to comment below or contact me on my social media handles, which you'll see after this. Okay guys, stay cool and stay strong. Peace.
I want good things to happen to you. 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 Good things. You know the camera? There's that, what other camera? The laptop? You see that red button down there? That red button. You should click that one. Subscribe. You should subscribe. I think they should subscribe to your channel. Don't you? No, subscribe to your channel. Subscribe. Point needed to somebody. Thanks. You should click subscribe.